In May of 2024, I had $127,000 of student loan debt, and now in August of 2025, just over a year later, I have less than $84,000. I have obviously learned a lot through that process, and I wanted to make a video of the helpful things that I've learned and will be using as I move forward in the rest of this debt payoff. So in this video, I'll be sharing 10 tools and tips that I use to pay off all of that debt in just 1 year. Okay, first things first, you have to know your numbers. The important numbers that you need to know are your income, total debts, your minimum debt payments, and then your necessary monthly expenses. I would also recommend going through your credit and debit card statements and looking at your other expenses, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Knowing your numbers is important for many reasons, but most importantly, you have to know how much money you have to work with every single month, because obviously if you're trying to pay off debt at more than just the minimum rate, you need money to put towards that debt. And you have to be able to do that without going into more debt. So you need to know what your expenses are so that you can know what you can afford to put towards your debt. So naturally, the less you spend every single month or the more you make every single month, the more money you're gonna have to put towards your debt. For a lot of people, it's actually going to be easier to cut expenses than it is to make more money. You might not have extra time or energy to start something on the side. And it's always a good idea to look at other job options and see if you can get any upward movement, but it's also possible you're just starting out and don't have that opportunity. So look at cutting expenses first if you're able to. Your largest line item is probably your housing. This is going to be the hardest thing to change, but if you're in a position to move somewhere cheaper, maybe get roommates, live somewhere with less amenities, or if it's an option to you, move in with your parents, these are ways that you can reduce that huge line item and save money every single month to put towards debt. And this would also be temporary. Once your debt is paid off, you'd free up that money to spend on housing if you want it. Otherwise, your fixed expenses might be harder to cut. You can look at reducing your grocery prices by shopping somewhere else. But let's go ahead and talk about our other spending. This isn't the first time you'll hear this from me, but you need to track your expenses. Tracking every single one of my expenses has been the most helpful tool for staying on top of my money. Once a week, I sit down and I track each of my expenses in my budget template, which quickly allows me to see how I'm doing based on each of my targets. Doing this regularly helps me check in and see how my spending aligns with how I've been feeling and how fulfilled I am in life. It has actually helped me cut my spending so much, but still have more to spend on things that I actually want to, rather than things that are just impulses and give me a quick, happy dopamine hit, but ultimately leave me with less money to put towards my real financial goals. So try it out. Track your expenses and ask yourself, are your expenses serving you? Do the things or experiences you buy make you feel fulfilled? Are you spending on areas that you actually value, or are you just spending to make it look like your life is good? This can help you figure out areas that you want to cut and be conscious about. While we're on the topic of budgeting, one thing that is really helpful to make progress on your debt payoff is having a realistic plan for what you're going to do with income that's over what you expect to make every single month. And because you know your numbers, you know what that income is. This plan should be standard for all additional income, so I like to use percentages to account for the variability in the fact that it might be $10 or $1,000. Additional income could come from side hustles that you aren't necessarily budgeting. It could be gifts, it could be an inheritance, it could be winning the lottery, who knows? If it's more than what you expect to make from your regular job that you've budgeted for, then it's additional income. It can be really easy to see that influx of cash and think, oh my gosh, I've been wanting this new pair of shoes, so I'm gonna buy it. But that's not you anymore. You have financial goals, so instead have a plan for that money. For me, I put 70% of it to my debt because that's my biggest financial goal. I invest 20% of it, 5% of it goes to savings for whatever sinking fund category I want, and then 5% of it is mine to do whatever I want with. And that includes buying those shoes if I want them. So let's say that I got a $1,000 bonus at work. $700 of it would go straight to my debt, $200 would get invested, $50 would get saved, and then $50 would go with me to the mall to spend guilt-free. A huge chunk of my debt payoff progress has been because I used extra money to put towards my goals. But doing this and making sure that I set aside a little bit for me still makes it feel like a treat and keeps me motivated to make extra money because I still get something out of it. It's not 100% going to that goal. Another huge tip is don't give yourself another option. My loan servicer takes 2 to 4 days to process payment. It's usually 2 days. So what I do is I make my debt payment Wednesday after 5 p.m. when I know I'm getting paid that Friday. Then when the debt payment actually pulls from my account, it happens at the same time that I get paid. So I don't even notice that the money's gone because my bank account still went up. And when I do get paid, it's already gone. So I can't spend it on something else even if I wanted to. Now be careful because you don't want to overdraw your account or spend money that you need for something else genuinely, but it can be helpful to set yourself up in a way where the money that is for your debt is only for your debt. I've heard of people whose workplaces allow them to direct deposit different amounts of each paycheck into different accounts, and they'll set up a checking account specifically for their debt payments and have that checking account only linked to pay out to their debt loan servicer. So they'll set a portion of their paycheck aside to pay into that checking account, and then their only option that they have is to pay their debt with it. Again, be careful and be mindful because you want to avoid fees. So if you're going to draw this account down to zero, just be super conscious of that. But these are a couple great ways to make sure that your money that's for your debt, that you have set aside for your debt, and you understand how that money is going to help you achieve your goals, also only has the option to go towards your debt and help you achieve those goals. Another thing that's really helpful is talking about your goal. You don't have to go to an extreme and make a YouTube channel where you share all of the intimate details about your personal finance, because that is crazy, girl. But talking about your financial goal with friends or your family can be really motivating, because you'll have someone to celebrate with when you reach certain milestones. And it also makes you feel way less alone, because you'll find out you're not the only one in this position. My friends and family share their different tips and progress with me, and I get to celebrate with them. And it just feels good to be in a community paying off debt. If you want to join my community, I love to have you, because you guys are super motivating to me. One way to have a big impact without you even really noticing is to round each of your payments up. This is something that I need to get back to doing, but I was definitely doing a lot when I first started. So instead of making a payment for $32.50, make it for $35 or even $40. And those couple of bucks won't really impact you in the short term, but can add up to hundreds of dollars a year. And that's what we really want, is to make a big impact without feeling it at all, right? Number 7 is putting your raises straight to your debt. Until you pay off all your debt, there is no lifestyle creep. So whenever I get a raise, I don't see it as 3% more to add to my budget. I see it as 3% more to add to my debt payoff only. Again, more income equals paying off debt faster. Another way to keep yourself motivated psychologically is to make a countdown. First of all, knowing your expected debt-free date is just being responsible financially. We want to know these numbers and understand them. So based on what you're planning, run a calculator, see when you're going to be debt-free, and then make a countdown of payments, weeks, months, whatever it is, that'll be motivating and relevant to you. This not only helps you visually see your progress, but it also helps you understand how making any extra payments to your debt actually impacts you, because it'll just shorten that lifespan. It'll make it super motivating to you. Next is redirecting your paid off debt's minimum payments to your next debt. So for example, I paid off one of my student loans, and that freed up $200 a month because I no longer had a minimum payment on that loan. But rather than just add $200 a month to my budget and allocating it there, maybe saving a little more, spending a little more, I just moved that $200 straight into the next debt to pay straight towards principal. So my monthly payment stayed the same, but I was putting more money towards my debts technically. You've already set the budget, you're already comfortable putting a certain amount towards your debt. Keep doing that. It'll speed up your debt payoff so much. And then last but not least, set milestones and set rewards. If you're the follower that told me this, thank you so much. I have implemented this into my debt payoff journey. I have set milestones that accompany a certain reward. So for me, it's every $10,000 paid off, I get to have a little treat, whether that's go out for ice cream or a donut or whatever. And then I also set milestones at important markers along the way. So my debt being less than my gross annual income, my debt being less than my annual net income, 63,500 because that is my halfway point, and then 50,000 and 25,000 because I love just like a round number. And then for each of those, I get a little something, whether it's a local trip or trying a new restaurant that I've wanted to try, I get a little reward. So not only am I working towards debt freedom and paying down my debt number, but I'm also working towards a little treat along the way. Hopefully these tips can inspire you and you can work them into your debt payoff plan, whether you are already on the move or just getting started. If you want to follow along on my debt-free journey, go ahead and subscribe, because I am constantly bringing you updates. And if you're not sick of me, here's something new to watch. I'll catch you in the next one.